What is up, guys? It's your friendly neighborhood web warrior fanatic, and today we will be looking at all the leadership support cards in Marvel Champions. So let's go ahead and get started here. So our first leadership support card is Command Team. This is a 2-cost support, and it comes in play with 3 command counters. As an action, we can exhaust the command team and remove 1 command counter from it, then ready up an ally. So this is very similar to the leadership event Get Ready, which is a 0-cost event. Then whenever you play it, you can ready up an ally. But Command Team is a support card, so after you play it, it stays in play forever, and you can save it for a very useful situation where you need that extra threat removal, or if you want to make a big final push at the villain and ready up your allies to do more damage. So I think the potential for Command Team is a lot higher. One really nice thing is that it's not an alter ego or hero action, so you can use this action in hero or alter ego form. And then there is no cap for the amount of command teams that you can have in play at once, so you can have 3 out at once. And for being 2 costs, it's a pretty cheap card. I'm gonna put command team in the A tier here. I think it is a very good card that you can easily deck build around, and even if you're not building around it, you can still easily put it in any deck because it's always going to be useful to have out. Next we have EVA. This is a 0-cost support. If Phantomex is not in play, discard EVA. So Phantomex is a 4-cost leadership ally with 1 thwart, 1 attack, and he takes 1 consequential damage for each activation. Whenever he enters play, you can search your discard pile and deck for EVA and put it straight into play. So Phantomex kind of tutors EVA, but EVA cannot exist on the field if Phantomex is not in play. Then as an action, you can exhaust EVA, then choose one, remove 1 threat from a scheme, or do 1 damage to an enemy, or heal 1 damage from Phantomex. So this is a very powerful and versatile effect. You can choose to always heal Phantomex so he stays in play forever, or you can remove 1 threat from a scheme, and this is not a thwart activation, so it bypasses patrol, and the deal 1 damage to enemy is not an attack activation, so this will bypass stuff like guard or retaliate because you're not attacking, and it can ping off a lot of toughs. So a very powerful and versatile card. I'm going to put EVA also in the A tier. And one really nice thing about EVA is that it is a 0-cost support, even though you're never playing it the first time it enters play. It's going to be entering play through Phantomex's effect. But if it gets discarded through like a caught off guard or something like that, and you draw EVA back up, you can just play it for 0 cost. It just gets discarded if Phantomex is not in play. So that's a fun, unique way to kind of get the uses out of EVA. Okay, so next we have Guardians of the Galaxy. This is a 2-cost support. Play under any player's control, max 1 team card per player. If each of your characters has the Guardians trait, this card gains response after you play an upgrade on ally, draw 1 card. So this card I think is very situational. It does have a very powerful effect to draw a card, but I think you have to be playing a deck that has a lot of upgrades for allies, and this will only work for Guardians as well, right? Because you need the Guardians trait. But we're not really, we're going to be evaluating this card as if we are playing with the Guardians deck, but there's just not that many heroes I think that can really take advantage of that. So one hero that I think would be really good with this is Star-Lord, right? Because Star-Lord has an effect that makes all of his allies into Guardians. And then if you're playing Iron Man, the Iron Man ally, Iron Man will become a Guardian with Star-Lord's effect. And an Iron Man ally's effect is that every single upgrade that you play on him, you reduce the cost by 1. And most ally upgrades are 1 cost, so you can play a lot of upgrades for free if you're playing him on Iron Man. And each time you play the upgrade on Iron Man, you can draw a card with Guardians of the Galaxy if you have this card out. So that's a very specific situation where I think this card can be very good, but I don't think there's that many situations where it will be good. So I'm gonna put this card in the C tier. Definitely sometimes it can be good, but in those specific situations, but there's just not too many of them. So I think this is a situational card at best. Next we have Leadership Training. This is a 1-cost support, max 2 per deck, and it comes in with 2 training counters. So this is the leadership equivalent of like Assault Training or the other training cards for the other aspects. As an alter ego action, exhaust this card and remove 1 training counter from it. Then choose a leadership event in your discard pile and shuffle it into your deck. So the same effect as all the other ones. I do think that leadership training is a little bit better because leadership has a lot of more versatile events that you can choose in your discard pile. And this is an alter ego action, and a lot of leadership cards you can play in alter ego, like a lot of leadership events like Get Ready or Make the Call. You can do that in hero form or alter ego form, and leadership just has better access to alter ego than aggression or protection. But it still has the same problems as the other ones where you get that event into your deck. So you shuffle it into your deck, you don't get it straight into your hand. So it's not like you can play it right away unless you draw a bunch of cards. And then the fact that it only has 2 counters, so when you use it twice, it goes away, and you can only use this in alter ego, so you have to flip down to use it. So still a C tier card, but I think it's better than the other versions of it for the other aspects at least. Next, we have Medlab. This is a 1-cost support, max 1 per player. Response after an ally is defeated by consequential damage. Exhaust Medlab, then place it here. And you can only have 1 ally at a time underneath Medlab. As an alter ego action, exhaust Medlab, then play the ally here as if it were in your hand, and it enters play exhausted. So Medlab, I think, is very, very good for recurring an ally. And one cool thing is that when you're playing it as if you're in your hand, you trigger a lot of allies' effects that if they have effect that can only be triggered if it's played from your hand, right? So I'm talking about like the basic ally Ironheart or the leadership ally White Tiger. These guys can draw you cards if they're played from your hand, not if they enter play through call for backup or make the call or anything like that. So yeah, Medlab can fulfill those effects and you can recur those allies over and over again. But the thing is that ally does have to be defeated by taking consequential damage, and you have to exhaust Medlab to do that. Then in alter ego action, you have to exhaust Medlab again in order to get the ally back up. So you can't get the ally to Medlab and get it and play it back in the same turn because Medlab would be exhausted. So it's just a very slow card. Way too many conditions. I can definitely see it being useful in any deck. So I will put it in a B tier because every deck has a strong ally. It can even be your identity specific ally. So you can recur the ally over and over again with Med Team instead of waiting to draw it back up, which can be valuable. But since the ally enters play exhausted, this card has to exhaust to get it ally underneath it, and exhaust to get the ally back out, and you have to pay for its cost again, the ally's cost. I mean, I think it definitely can be very powerful, but it's just a lot of conditions. So I'm gonna put it here in the B tier, where if I have an empty roster spot in a leadership deck, I definitely won't mind putting Med Team in, but it's not like it's not a super powerful card that works in a lot of situations. It's very situational. Okay. Next, we have the Mighty Avengers. This is a 3-cost support, and it has a team trait. So just like Guardians of the Galaxy, you can play this card under any player's control, but max 1 team card per player. Then if each of your characters have the Avengers trait, each ally you control gets +1 thwart, +1 attack. So I think this is so much better than the Guardians one, because that +1 thwart, +1 attack can be invaluable. It makes all of your allies stronger and helps you thwart a lot better. One thing with cards like these are that most of the time only your hero has the Avengers trait and your alter ego does not. So you flip down, you do lose the effect, even though this card does stay in play forever unless something gets rid of it. So, but I think Mighty Avengers is definitely a card to build around, and it's a very strong card. I put it in the A tier, and I'm actually gonna put it above Command Team, because I think if you're playing an Avenger deck, which we are evaluating as if we are playing Avengers for the Mighty Avengers, right? So if you're playing an Avengers deck, this card is so good. It's almost I mean, the thing with this card and other cards that are trait lock is that you really have to deck build around it. You can't include any other allies that aren't Avengers. Well, you could, but whenever you play them, you lose this effect. So usually I'll still include stuff like Maria Hill and sometimes Nick Fury, even though they aren't Avengers, because their effect is so powerful that it's worth losing this +1 thwart and +1 attack for the 1 round that they are in play. So yeah, I mean, I think Mighty Avengers is still super duper good. It can give you the push that you need to make a final push for the villain and bring all of his hit points down, because all your allies get +1 attack, or you can thwart for like insane amounts because all your allies will have so much thwarting power with this +1 thwart. So yeah, I think this +1 thwart and +1 attack is super duper good, and this is to me an A tier level card and the best one that we looked at so far. Next we have the Quinjet. This is a 1-cost support. As a response after your turn begins, place 1 time counter on Quinjet. So when you play Quinjet, it's very cheap. It's a very cheap card to play, but when you play it, you don't get anything on it. You have to wait until the next turn, whenever your turn begins, to place 1 time counter on here. Then as an action, you can put an Avenger ally from your hand into play with printed cost equal to or less than the number of time counters on Quinjet. Then discard Quinjet. So this is a very, very slow card. If you get these Quinjets on the field building up, it can definitely be very useful for late game. But I think that for a lot, especially the hard difficulty scenarios, you don't have the luxury to play Quinjet and wait for an ally. And in fact, it has to be an ally that you play from your hand, so you have to draw the ally up. It's not like you can just tutor an ally from your discard or deck, right? So I think it's just way too many requirements. If you're playing a very slow deck, I'm tempted. I'm gonna put it in the C tier. I'm tempted to put it in the D tier here, but I think there are uses for Quinjet where it can be good. Um, it's just if you're playing a ton of rounds, like a battle of attrition, and you're just really focusing on threat and just surviving and building up, Quinjet can definitely be useful. It's just such a slow card. It's really gonna make your play slow. So I'm putting a C tier, right? It's a situational card, but yeah, I think it definitely has potential and it can be very useful if you can stack up those time counters and get allies out for free. Okay, so next we have R&D facility. This is a 3-cost support, and the requirement is that you have to spend at least 2 mental resources to pay for this card, and it comes in with 3 research counters. As a hero action, you can exhaust R&D facility and remove 1 research counter from it. Then choose a friendly character in play. That character gets +1 thwart and +1 attack until the end of phase. So this is a hero action, so you can only use this card in hero form. It's not that big of a deal because usually this effect you want to use in hero form anyways for your allies, to do a crazy thwart or crazy attack. Um, it's not bad. It definitely has good synergy with like stuff like command team, because if you get more readies, then you can on your allies, so you can take more advantage of that +1 thwart and +1 attack that they got. I don't think R&D. I think I'm gonna put this card in the B tier. I'm gonna put it behind Medlab. So I think that if you have an empty roster spot in your deck, you can definitely put R&D in. It's going to be useful sometimes if you build around it specifically. You could make this card very, very good. I could definitely see it being like an A tier card. Remove a research. Yeah, I mean it only comes in with 3 research counters too. Is the thing. So after 3 uses of it, then it's gone. But it's just another way. It's similar to command team in that it's a support card, so you get into play and you get that +1 attack whenever you need it. Versus I think the card is, I'm not sure. There's a leadership event that also gives an ally that stat buff, but the support version of it will stay into play. So I think that's, I mean, there's definitely a better version of that to have this whenever you need it, and you combine it with stuff like command team. So if you have an empty roster spot and you're playing with a bunch of allies, I can definitely see this card being good, but I don't think it's as good as any card before it. Okay, next we have a 1-cost support, Regroup. As an interrupt, when an ally is defeated by an enemy attack, return it to its owner's hand instead of discarding it. Then as a force interrupt, when the round ends, discard this card. So this is a support card, right? It's 1 cost, so it's very, very cheap. And it kind of just enters play and it gets this card at the end of the round. So it just kind of stays in play, just kind of for you to remember that whenever an ally is defeated by an enemy attack, you return it to your owner's hand instead of discarding it. So this is a very, very powerful card. I think this is a key card for leadership recursion. I'm going to put this card, it's definitely an A tier card. I'm tempted. I'm going to put it under or behind Mighty Avengers. So if you're playing leadership recursion, definitely Regroup can be more powerful than Mighty Avengers. And I mean, if you're playing recursion, it's an S tier card. It's like one of the strongest cards, and it's just so good to get the ally back to your hand. So you already have your regular hand size, and whenever an ally gets defeated, you could add to your hand. So the next player phase, when you're starting that player phase after an ally is defeated by chump blocking for you, you have your whatever like 5-card hand size plus that ally. And if you have multiple allies that get defeated, they're all back to your hand. So you can have like 8 cards in your hand with those 3 allies in play that were all defeated, and you can play them back again. So it's just a great way to get those allies out every single turn, right? You can play them, they get defeated, you get them back to your hand, but you do need the Regroup out every single turn to take advantage of that. But if you have allies that draw you cards, you can mill through your entire deck and consistently try to get these Regroups out every single turn with the allies out every turn. The only reason I have it behind Mighty Avengers is that I think if you're playing, because we're evaluating these cards as if we're playing Avengers, right? So if you're playing with Avengers, an Avenger leadership type of deck, you almost always want Mighty Avengers. I mean, it's just always going to be good. I mean, you do need all Avengers, which is a little bit limiting when you're building your deck, but I think this is so powerful and a much more universal effect. And Regroup is really going to be best in leadership recursion. It can still be very, very good if you're not playing a recursion style, right? So if you just want those allies back to get their effects again and you want them to chump block, like it can be like Nick Fury or Maria Hill, then definitely it's still a good card. I'm kind of talking myself. I'm going to put Regroup above Mighty Avengers. Yeah, I definitely, yeah, because now that I'm thinking about it, I think the potential for Regroup is definitely higher than the max potential for Mighty Avengers. But with Regroup, its floor is actually high as well, right? That's what I was just thinking about right now, because even if you're not playing a leadership recursion deck, if you play Regroup, it's still nice for that turn to get those strong allies back like a Nick Fury or Maria Hill to play them again. So I think not only does Regroup have a decent floor, but its max ceiling, its highest potential is very, very good, and probably one of the highest potential cards in the game. And yeah, the only reason it doesn't go in S tier is that you have to be using it in a specific type of way. But yeah, I think this is a very, very good card. Okay, next we have Target Practice. This is a zero cost event, or sorry, zero cost support, I mean. As an interrupt, when an ally with a weapon upgrade makes an attack, you can discard Target Practice. That attack gets +2 for that attack, or the ally gets +2 attack for that attack. I'm saying attack a lot. Okay, so this is kind of, you just play this support for free, and then you wait for when you have an ally make an attack, and then you can give them +2 for that attack. I don't think this card is that good, because you can only use it with the ally that has a weapon upgrade. I mean, you could put 3 out at once and then wait for an ally to make a big push. Okay, you know what? I'm going to put this card, I'm going to put it above the Quinjet in the C tier here. I can definitely see a situation for it to be good, right? If you're playing similar with the Guardians of the Galaxy card right here, right? If you're playing with a deck with a bunch of upgrades and like weapon upgrades, then you can stack these target practices up, right? You just play them for free. The main reason why it's here is because it's free to play, right? The effect is not the best, but for being a zero cost card, I think that's very, very good. You just put them out, save them for whenever you need that ally to make a super huge attack, and they can swing for a whole ton. So yeah, that's a situation where it would be good to make a final push, or have the ally do crazy burst damage for a specific turn, maybe to defeat a minion or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very situational. Yeah, I'm tempted to drop it down a D tier or put it behind Quinjet, but I think that there are situations where it could be useful. So I'm going to put target practice in the C tier here. Next, we have Team Training. This is a 2-cost support. Play under any player's control, max 1 per player. And then each ally you control gets +1 hit point. So very basic, very simple effect, but very, very powerful. Even if you're chump blocking a lot, it's useful to have allies have 1 more hit point, because they can do 1 more activation without getting defeated, or 1 more activation before chump blocking. So I'll put Team Training. Is it A tier or is it B tier? I'm gonna actually put in a B tier here, and I think this might be a hot take. So Team Training, while it's always good to have, it's not necessarily necessary. I said that. So it's not absolutely necessary to have out. I don't think anyone is building a deck that revolves around Team Training, but Team Training will help out any deck where you have allies to increase their hit points, right? But having that hit point increase, I mean, it's going to help out in every situation, but it's not going to make or break anything. It's not going to be that determining factor that really changes anything. It just keeps every ally in play for a little bit longer. And being 2 costs is very, very cheap, so it's a good price to pay for this card. I think this is a very, very good card, but I think it only goes in a deck if you have an empty roster spot. You're not building the deck around Team Training. So I do want to keep it out of the A tier here. So next we have the Triskelion. This is a 1-cost support. Increase your ally limit by 1, and then yeah. So your ally limit is 3. If you increase it by 1, then you now have 4 allies here. So this is a very good support card. Very cheap, being 1 cost. I think this also goes in the B tier. It's a great supplemental card. Yeah, I mean, it can definitely help you out, especially playing a deck that you want to play a bunch of allies. I think it's a super duper good card, but this isn't a key card, right? This is a card that because of what our strategy you're doing, if you want a bunch of allies out, then the Triskelion will help with that. But usually for decks like that, there's other ways to increase your ally limit by playing your trait log ally limit increasing card, right? Like Utopia, or Avengers Tower, or something like that, or like Nowhere, right? So I think this card is great to add on top of that, or if you're not playing those trait log things, it's nice to get that +1 limit. But I don't think this is a key card. I'm keeping the B tier here, where I think you have an empty roster spot. You can put it in, or it's a great supplementary card. And I do think it's very good. I'm gonna put it above Team Training, because I think having that +1 ally limit can be very useful to just stock up on allies. So I'm actually gonna put it first here in the B tier above Team Training. Next we have Uncanny XForce. This is a 2-cost support. is another team card. Play under any player's control, max one team card per player. So this is the XForce version of it. So the XForce version of Mighty Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. So Uncanny XForce says, if each of your characters has the XForce trait, each ally you control gets +1 thwart and takes -1 consequential damage after thwarting a side scheme. So very, very similar to Mighty Avengers, right? Each of your allies get that +1 thwart if all your characters have that trait. But you don't get the +1 attack that Mighty Avengers gives you, but you take -1 consequential damage when thwarting a side scheme. And yeah, I mean, this card works better with if you're Voltron allies and you're trying to keep them in play. But and I just found out that Voltron doesn't mean that you keep the allies in play. It just means that you're buffing up allies, right? So, I mean, Uncanny X-Force is good for if you are buffing up your allies and you want to keep them in play. But I don't think it is as good as the Mighty Avengers here. I'm going to put this card. The +1 Thor is nice. I'm going to put it. I can definitely see it being. I'm going to put it actually behind Command Team in the A tier. And the reason why, I mean, even though it's so similar to Mighty Avengers, I think having that +1 attack and +1 thwart rounds you out, right? That +1 attack helps us so much with board control and just clearing off minions early game. And for end game, it helps you make that big final push at the villain. Having the -1 consequential damage is great for keeping allies healthy, but it's only when you're throwing side schemes and it doesn't help you actually apply, like, help you get that kill shot and apply more attacking pressure to the villain. So I think Mighty Avengers is a lot better, but Uncanny X-Force is still good. Definitely you're playing with a lot of side schemes. It's even better because those allies can stick around, never die. Yeah, but I just like the versatility of Mighty Avengers a little bit more, where you can have allies chump block, and you don't need anything else to build around to make Mighty Avengers good other than Avengers allies, right? For the Uncanny X-Force, I think you usually want some player side scheme, or you usually want something that keeps allies healthy, because yeah, I mean, taking -1 consequential damage means a lot of times they're not taking consequential damage, and you really have to plan around that and have them thwart the side schemes instead of your hero to make sure that they don't take those consequential damages. So yeah, good card, but I mean, it doesn't help when thwarting the main scheme too, which is another thing that holds it back. So yeah, I think it's still an A tier card, and it's a good reason to play X-Force, and you definitely want to include it if you're playing all X-Force allies, but it's not as good as the cards before it. Okay, and our last and final leadership support card is a 3-cost support, Uncanny XMen. So this is another team card, same thing as Guardians of the Galaxy, My Avengers, and Uncanny X-Force, but this is the X-Men version. So if each of your X-Men allies, or it just says, each of your X-Men allies gets +1 hit point. If each of your characters has the X-Men trait, each of your X-Men allies costs 1 fewer resources to play. So this is very unique from the other ones. So one thing that's cool is that each of your X-Men allies gets +1 hit point. So this stays no matter what, right? So regardless of if you don't have all your characters having the X-Men trait, all your X-Men allies still get that +1 hit point, which I think is very, very good. And it allows you to play this card and have non-X-Men in there as well, because the X-Men allies will still get that 1 hit point buff. Then if each of your characters has the X-Men trait, each of your X-Men allies costs 1 fewer resource to play. So this is invaluable. It's very similar to Avengers Tower, right? Where you can exhaust it to reduce the cost to play the next Avenger. But Uncanny X-Men just makes, it doesn't need to be exhausted. It just makes all the X-Men allies cheaper to play. And definitely if you're playing like Cyclops, I mean, this card is a must include, right? I think it's a lot better than Uncanny X-Force, but I'm still going to put it behind Mighty Avengers. And I do love the cost reduction from Uncanny X-Men and the increased hit points, but I think that the +1 thwart and +1 attack is just way more valuable than having the +1 hit points and the cheaper cost. It's definitely arguable though, right? If you're playing a fully X-Men deck, having every X-Men cost 1 less, I mean, the amount of resources that will save over time, it's very, very close. I mean, I can definitely see an argument to where Uncanny X-Men is better than Mighty Avengers. I think just for me personally, I still prefer the Mighty Avengers with that +1 thwart, +1 attack. But I mean, it can be argued back and forth because having this 1 fewer resources to play all of your X-Men allies forever, that can add up so much over time and save you so many resources and just make everything so cheap to play. So this is still a super duper powerful card. I just I just personally prefer the Mighty Avengers a little bit more, so I think I'm gonna leave it above Uncanny X-Men. So yeah, there you have it. This is my leadership tier list for leadership support cards in Marvel Champions, and I didn't have anything in S tier, and I didn't have anything in D tier, so I think everything is pretty well rounded, pretty streamlined here, and I can definitely see a lot of these cards making the case for them to be S tier in the correct situation, but I think they're all a little bit situational and just have, and they all, each of them have like a little bit too many conditions holding them back, at least in my opinion. So yeah, there you have it. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys agree or disagree with anything on my list, please let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one.